everybody, and welcome to Prepster Live on Facebook. We are here to talk about PrEP for women. I'm really excited about this evening. There is some amazing women that have joined me on this couch to talk about PrEP for women, and I hope you're excited too, because I'm really trying hard to contain myself. So I want to get this thing started. I'm Akia, lovely to meet you, or Kiki as some people like to call me, and I just want to introduce you to this fabulous array of women that we have on this couch. So please tell me a little bit about yourselves and where you're from and what you do.
Okay, I'm Mitzi Gaffos. I work in HIV prevention research. So for the last 10 years plus, I've been looking at how women and men take new HIV prevention products and fit them in their everyday lives. So that's what I'm interested in.
I'm Yasmin. I work with Positive East and the GMI Partnership, and we are community organisations that work with women and other communities around HIV prevention.
And I'm Neka, and I'm a consultant in HIV and sexual health at 5016 Street, and I'm interested in the reproductive health of women and in particular in HIV prevention for women.
Amazing. So as you can see, we've got a fabulous selection on this couch tonight, and I think it's going to be a really informative event for you guys to listen to. So I am new to PrEP. I've learned about PrEP being part of the Prepster team, and I feel like each time I work with the fabulous team, I'm learning a little bit more. So I just want to know, kind of, you know, obviously it's new for lots of us, and I just want to know, like, what is it and why is it something that we're all getting really excited about?
So the reason it's so exciting is because this is a pill that HIV negative people can take. Take one pill every day, and we know that when it's taken consistently, it will stop people from getting HIV. So, you know, this is the first time that we've really had another product to offer people in addition to just talking about condoms, condoms, condoms. So in that way, it's really exciting that we've expanded the option for people to protect themselves from HIV.
Yeah, that's really great. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because we talk a lot about MSM, which would one of you like to explain what MSM means?
Okay, so MSM means men who have sex with men, and in the relevance of the MSM issue with regard to PrEP is that PrEP has been shown to be really, really effective in preventing HIV and MSM. So most of the data showing that PrEP is effective has come from MSM, from men who have sex with men. And PrEP, if taken properly, works virtually 100% of the time. And so for the first time, there is something that people can do to prevent themselves from catching HIV, which, as Mitzi says, is an addition to condoms. And the thing about condoms is that we all know that not everybody can use a condom all of the time. And there are lots and lots of complex reasons why that might be. But anybody can take a pill. And although most of the studies have been done in MSM, there have also been studies done in women. And in women who take PrEP properly, PrEP works just as well.
Okay, so what does the research say about PrEP for women, and also in terms of women being able to learn more about PrEP and to understand why it's important for them? What information is out there for women?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of information out there now for women. I think it's taken us a while to get there, but this event is part of hopefully a wider movement to be talking more about PrEP for women. But there is the fabulous PrEP for Women website as well, so it's womenandprep.org.uk, and there's a lot of community work as well that's going on with different agencies and different services. So I think we're getting there in terms of information. I don't know about the research side of things so much.
I mean, so there is good research that shows that PrEP works, but there is also, unfortunately, research that suggests that PrEP doesn't work, because women in some studies don't seem to have been protected as well as men in many of the studies. But actually that's not because PrEP doesn't work. It's been because women, for various reasons, haven't taken their PrEP. And one of the challenges that we have is to try to understand what it is that makes women not take it. Because women actually are very vulnerable, particularly Black African women. So worldwide, there are more women with HIV than men, and women are very, very, very much affected by HIV. But for some reason, many of the studies done in African countries which involve women have shown that women, for various reasons, don't want to take PrEP. And until we understand why that is, it will be a challenge for us to get PrEP to women, and that's one of the things we want to try to explore today.
Yeah, and I think just to build on that though as well, a lot of these, I mean, the evidence across the trials with men having sex with men, heterosexual women, heterosexual men, trans women, and women and men using intravenous drugs, all of the evidence shows consistently PrEP works when it's taken. In the trials that Necca's referring to, a lot of them were placebo-controlled, so people were enrolled in these trials. Some of them were given a pill saying, might work, might not, we don't know. And the others were given a pill that everybody knew didn't work, and the women didn't know what they were getting. So there were lots of reasons why you think, with everything else going on in my life, why do I get up and take this pill when nobody knows that it really works? But evidence since then, particularly in Uganda and Kenya, and evidence starting to come from South Africa particularly, is really showing that when women know that they're getting a product that definitely protects them from HIV, there are still struggles, you know, young women have got to negotiate, they're living with parents, and some women are in violent relationships, and how do they negotiate even having the pills in the house? So there's still lots of challenges to taking it, but when they know it's a product that can protect them from HIV, we're seeing a lot more positive evidence about how women are able to use it and fit it into their lives.
Okay. So do you think, in terms of, you're talking about when women see that it's working, so is it just about women understanding that it works, or is there another barrier that we need to get over in order for women to not be afraid to seek PrEP? You know?
Definitely. I think the reasons why women are not at the moment accessing PrEP are very complex, and I think as individual women as well, I think that the factors will depend as well on the individual. So in terms of, even if you think about your own vulnerabilities, is that something that you necessarily want to own as a person? Is that a narrative you want to think about? Right. You know, if you think about when you were most vulnerable and potentially PrEP could have been something that you could have taken, is that something necessarily you're in the right space to think about?
Yeah.
And it is difficult, especially I think at the moment in this country, because PrEP isn't widely available. So what do we say to women who may benefit from PrEP, who may have to then go and advocate for it themselves? I mean, part of this whole event, I think, is to normalise PrEP and to talk about it and to start raising awareness.
Yeah.
Because that's where we need to begin.
Yeah, I think that's so true. It is so new, so the biggest issue is getting the information out there and making sure that women know that this is even a thing, that is a possibility. But the second issue is about understanding whether you are at risk or not. Yeah. So there's lots of women who are having regular sex with many partners and not using condoms, and for them they understand their risk of HIV, and that, you know, we want to make sure they know about PrEP so as they can come forward and access it as an additional prevention option. But there's also lots of women who we know are at risk of HIV, but their main risk is through their husband or their partner, and then trying to figure out, well, am I at risk, and how do I start raising that concern about risk without saying I don't trust him, or making him think he can't trust me. It's all really complicated and really difficult.
So are there safe spaces for women to be able to go to where they can have confidential conversations about using PrEP?
Yeah, so there are. I mean, at the moment, PrEP is only available on the NHS through a trial called the PrEP Impact trial, which is running in sexual health services. So in sexual health clinics across the country, there are something like 200 sexual health clinics across the country who are running the PrEP Impact trial. And this trial is open to anybody who's at risk of HIV, including women. But one of the challenges is that we know that many Black African women don't access sexual health services for all sorts of complicated reasons. And so the difficulty is in saying to somebody who comes forward and says, I think I might be at risk of HIV, but I'm not going to go to a sexual health clinic, but how women can access PrEP. And what is it about sexual health clinics that kind of mean that Black African women, for various reasons, don't access them? And if it really is true that they won't access them, should we be looking at providing PrEP through other sources, for example, GPs? And one thing that it would be useful for people watching to let us know is how you think that if you thought that you were at risk of HIV, you would access PrEP if you wouldn't go to a sexual health clinic. Because we need to know those things so that we can make sure that women who need PrEP actually have access to it.
Yeah, and I completely echo that. I think, so we're a community-based organisation, so a lot of the work we do is within different communities, within African communities, ethnic minority communities as well. And yes,
just for everybody watching,
yeah,
your organisation again is Positive East.
my beautiful yellow t-shirt.
I think the camera's hiding it. I might have to stand up and give him a shimmy.
Not yet, more present.
Okay.
No, but definitely, I think what you're saying is so important because, you know, firstly, there's your vulnerability you face as a woman, and then there's the vulnerability, the added level of, not vulnerability, maybe that's the wrong word, but complexity that your ethnicity plays within that. So even talking about HIV or thinking about your HIV risk in certain communities just isn't going to happen. I mean, in any community really, we're starting from zero in some situations.
So is it about being culturally sensitive as well, in terms of helping women to feel comfortable about being able to come to somewhere and say, I want to find out about PrEP? And if that is the case, how do we enable that?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I agree, and I think that's why we're doing PrEP4Women as women as well, because I think it helps in terms of understand, like a peer-led model, so having women talking to women about PrEP. I think that's powerful.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, it is about trying to normalise it. If we think about all of the stigma that is attached to women now saying, I want PrEP, you know, there are issues of, firstly, for young girls, it's saying, I'm having sex. For all women, it's saying, I'm having sex not always with a condom. So there's all of those issues that come up with it. So we face the same challenges that we faced before with condoms, even before that with the contraceptive pill. So it is about trying to normalise this conversation as much as possible. And I think a lot of services that mightn't be sexual health services, but might be providing domestic violence services, mental health services, all of those other social and health services that are dealing with women, I think there's a real anxiety about, you don't want to talk about PrEP because it sounds like this strange acronym thing that you don't know enough about. And the more that everybody knows about it and can just start drip feeding that, have you heard about this? There's a new prevention option out there. And start that conversation and that normalisation, then the better position we're going to be in.
I've got to be honest actually, when I look at the word PrEP, I am going, what is that? What does it mean? What does it stand for? You know?
The other problem with that is we've got PEP, which is the post-exposure prophylaxis. So if you're negative and you think you've been exposed to HIV, and you can take this after that exposure to reduce your risk of getting HIV. And then you've got pre-exposure, so you're taking the PrEP before you're at risk of HIV on a continuous basis. And I often describe it in terms of thinking about PrEP being the contraceptive pill that you take every day to prevent, and PEP, the post-exposure, being the emergency contraceptive that you take in the case of an exposure that you weren't expecting.
I like that breakdown.
Helps, because they are ridiculous acronyms, and they're too similar.
Because every time I talk about PrEP to some of my friends, and they're always like, but what does it mean? I'm like, go to the website, prepster.info, thank you.
We need to rename it somehow.
But that's a really good breakdown to understand exactly what it means. It's really helpful. And also, like, in terms of, so this thing about, obviously some women have a fear about the side effects in relation to PrEP, you know, in relation to, does it affect breastfeeding and pregnancy, and, you know, so what would you say to somebody, a woman who's coming to you to talk about side effects?
So the great thing about PrEP is that it doesn't, you can take it if you're breastfeeding, you can take it if you're pregnant, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't cause any harm. And in fact, the majority of people who take PrEP don't have any side effects at all. People who do have side effects usually have them very mildly and only for a few days. So, there are now millions of people all over the world who are taking PrEP and take it really easily with no problems at all. So yes, people do worry when they're taking a medicine about side effects, but actually PrEP has really very, very, very few side effects.
Oh, wow, okay.
And just to pick up on what Neka said there, this fact that you can take PrEP during pregnancy is also really important, because so there's many women who may be in a relationship with a positive partner who the partner might always be taking their treatment, so whilst the woman's trying to get pregnant, PrEP might be a really good option for her. And then also during pregnancy, women can be at increased risk of HIV as well. So it can be a good added protection for the women.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's why it's it is such a great drug in terms of giving women those options.
Yeah, that's it.
And it is so exciting as well, because as you said, you're saying, it can really work in situations where maybe the partner's HIV positive but not taking treatment. But so just to pick up on that, for me, I think the two hugest innovations that we've seen within the HIV sector in the last couple of years is PrEP and the whole undetectable is untransmissible statement, and the fact that if you're HIV positive, taking medication, you're not going to pass on HIV. And I think those two messages, if we can shout about those, because PrEP is important, but it's the whole stigma of HIV that I think really those two messages can address.
Yeah. And the other sort of medical issue, particularly for trans women, is the hormone issue. So we know that a lot of trans people taking hormones are worried about HIV-related medicine, and because PrEP, in a sense, is an HIV medicine, so the medicine used as PrEP, which is called Truvada, is also used as a component of HIV treatment. And people taking hormones worry that there might be an interaction between PrEP and hormones, but there is no interaction. So trans people taking hormones can very happily and safely take PrEP. So that's something that's really, really important for people to know.
I'm also going to do a shameless plug, and I apologise, but our colleagues at Spectra and the GMI partnership are running all about PrEP for trans communities coming up very soon. So
is there a link or a website that
I'm sure there is.
To find out more info?
Do I have it with me?
We'll get it for you later. We'll get it for you later, I promise. Yeah. It's also it's really interesting, isn't it? Because obviously as a heterosexual woman, we're talking, and I can understand how it benefits me. But also, one thing we have to remember is that we're talking about all women, aren't we?
Yeah.
And you just mentioned trans women, and I think also, one of the most important things as well is to talk about sex workers too, and actually like how PrEP benefits them, because I think sometimes we forget about them, So what would you say, or how would we I don't know, enable them to feel more comfortable about taking PrEP, or even putting a foot forward to say, hey, because that's a big thing to come up and admit, isn't it? I can imagine,
Yeah, I think what you were saying before about working with different agencies, so when you were talking about different places that perhaps PrEP could be prescribed, I mean, there's some amazing agencies working with female sex workers in this country that are doing really vital work. We've got Beyond the Streets in Tower Hamlets, Open Doors. So working with agencies like that, training, development, and then cascading that information. Because you're right, it is a community who could be at risk of HIV. But it's also complicated because for these women, is HIV prevention necessarily the priority? Which kind of goes back to the barriers you were talking about.
And I think also thinking about how you reach out to a whole range of women, it's always worth going back to the point that the starting point is HIV testing. So that HIV test is the first step to say, okay, you're negative. If you think you're at risk, PrEP might be an option for you. If you test and you're positive, fantastic news, let's get you on treatment straight away, we know it will do you benefit, and we know it will stop you transmitting HIV to other people as well.
Okay.
So it's using the testing services that are so well networked
Yeah.
across this country. I mean, this country's got some of the best HIV testing anywhere in the world. So it's linking through them and raising awareness through those services as well, for sure.
And continuing to fund them.
Yes, absolutely.
And there really isn't necessarily any reason that PrEP has to be delivered through clinics. It can be, you know, we need to know where people will go and then find a way to get PrEP into those places. So yeah.
And one of the great things is I mean, I say it's great. I mean, it's not brilliant that it's still not being provided on the National Health Service, but actually that PrEP is accessible online, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know. So in terms of women being able to access PrEP, what is it? What's the process that they would have to go through in order to be able to just access it online?
So there is a website which is called I Want PrEP Now, so www.iwantprepnow. And actually this website was the website that most MSM who started to take PrEP got PrEP from before the NHS PrEP Impact Trial started. And actually, because so many people were able to access PrEP through this website, we've already started to see a reduction in new HIV diagnoses because there are so many MSM taking PrEP now. Unfortunately, a lot of women haven't or didn't know about this website, and many still don't know about this website. But you can buy PrEP fairly well, more cheaply than it would cost if you were buying it from a private pharmacy, for example. So Truvada, which is the medicine that's been used in studies for PrEP, is really expensive. It costs about £400 for 30 tablets. But online, you can get Truvada for, depending on where you get it, for something like £30 or £40 for 30 tablets. And I know that is out of the reach of still many people, but it's much more affordable than £400 for 30 tablets. And we've done assessments at Dean Street to look at whether the PrEP you get online is safe, and we've shown that it is safe. So if you get PrEP through the I Want PrEP Now website, you can be absolutely certain that what you're getting is genuine PrEP, so there's no worry about getting fake PrEP. So for people who for some reason don't feel that they can access the PrEP Impact Trial or can't get onto the PrEP Impact Trial for whatever reason, and you feel that you do want PrEP and are prepared to pay for it, then you can get it online.
How easy is it for people to get onto the Impact Trial? And what is the Impact Trial?
So the PrEP Impact Trial is a trial that is being run by NHS England, and it's not a trial to look to see whether PrEP works. We know that PrEP works. It's really been set up to try to figure out what the demand for PrEP will be, so that they can look at how much it's going to cost to then enable it hopefully to be rolled out and provided on the NHS. Because at the moment it's not clear how many people will want it, and so how much money will be needed to fund it. So that's why they're doing this trial. And it's being done across the whole of England through NHS sexual health or GUM clinics. And so on the PrEP Impact website, there's a list of all the clinics that are recruiting into the trial and contact details. So you can go onto the website, look at the clinics in the area where you live, and contact them and see if you can join the trial. And my understanding is that for women there are places being set aside. So it's likely that as a woman, if you try to go onto the PrEP Impact Trial in the area where you live, you probably will be able to get onto it.
Okay, that's
because
great.
most of the people who've been getting onto it so far have been men who have sex with men. But because people know how important it is that women get onto the trial, there are places being set aside for women. So it's worth looking.
Yeah, and just so you know, the website for the Impact Trial is prepimpacttrial.org.uk. That's prepimpacttrial, 2 T's, .org.uk. So if you are a woman and you are interested in going on the Impact Trial, please just go onto the website and look it up. But also as well with the Impact Trial, so in terms of what is the process that you go through when you're actually on the trial?
Okay. So,
You know?
do you want to?
No, you're but Ned's
Oh,
involved
hello.
with the trial, so she's far better to tell
Okay.
you. But I do just want to stress, so one of the things I hear quite frequently is people are anxious about it, particularly women. Yeah. So we've had very few women come forward for this trial, cis and trans women. And people are nervous because it's a trial, so it feels like something that's going to be a lot more complicated. But it's really simple. It's just the way it's being managed that makes it a trial. But it's not got all of the complications and all of the bells and whistles that many other trials have. But
So it's not a trial in the sense of the usual research trial. I mean, they're making real attempts to run the trial as it would be run for people just coming to a sexual health clinic. So when a person is taking PrEP, it's really important, first of all, to know that they're HIV negative. So before you start PrEP, you'd have an HIV test to check that you're negative. And
does that happen when you apply for the trial?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you were to look on the
gotta break it down for the
So the first thing you do is you think to yourself, could I be at risk of HIV? You think, yes, I might be. I would like to go onto the Impact Trial. So you go onto the Impact Trial website, you look for your local service, you find out what the contact details are, and you contact them. And they will usually then say, come and make an appointment to come. So they'll tell you how to come into the clinic. And then at your clinic visit, they'll go through a series of questions to see whether you really are at risk. And they'll talk to you, counsel you, talk to you about risks anyway and about HIV prevention. And if it turns out, yes, that there is that you would benefit from PrEP, then they would say, yes, you can join the trial. And there's an information sheet that they would give you so that you can read all about it and ask any questions that you have about it, any questions that you like, and then you'd be asked to sign a consent form. And once you sign the consent form, they would then tell you how you were going to access PrEP. And usually you would then be given the treatment that day. But you'd have an HIV test on that day, usually with a finger prick that would give you an immediate result. But they would also take a blood sample from your arm, just because the finger prick test may not detect very early infection. So the sample from your arm will detect earlier infection. Because what you don't want is to start PrEP if you're already positive, because PrEP isn't enough to treat HIV and if you've already got it. It's only enough to prevent it. So to treat it, you need the PrEP drug plus other drugs.
Gotcha.
And what you don't want is to give somebody insufficient treatment, because then the virus can become resistant. So before you start PrEP, one needs to know that you're not positive. So you have a negative HIV test. They would also do things like just checking your kidney function, just because very, very rarely PrEP can sometimes cause problems with the kidneys. Actually, for most people, it doesn't, but you want to check in the beginning that people don't have a problem. Okay. And then they would give you the treatment, and usually you'd get given 3 months worth of PrEP at a time, and then you'd be asked to come back to have HIV tests every 3 months or so, because what you don't want is to catch HIV without knowing about it. But I want to stress that if you're taking PrEP, then you're very unlikely to catch HIV. And the people who do catch HIV while they're taking PrEP are people who aren't taking it. Right. So if you're not taking it properly, you want to at least be testing regularly to make sure that you haven't caught HIV. But it's really, really important that if you're taking PrEP, that you take it properly. Right. That's how it works. Okay. It works if you take it.
There's a lot of community work as well going on. So in terms of before you even necessarily get to the point where you call up the sexual health clinic and think about going and do the HIV testing. So just for an example, the work we're doing as Positive East, and just doing outreach and engaging with women, and as well with the GMI partnerships, are having those initial conversations. So I think actually, even if you are a woman who regularly goes to clinic, maybe to get contraception, actually to get to the point where now I'm thinking about my HIV risk, and now I'm thinking about taking PrEP, it can, I mean, again, this is what this is all part of, but it can take a while to get to that point. So there is a lot of work, and I think Public Health England are compiling a list of all the different community activities that are going on, so that actually hopefully there is, as you said before, a safe space where women can go before even necessarily having to go to the sexual health clinic to have these conversations.
Have lots of questions and so on that they need addressing before they actually go to a clinic, so that's really important for that, to get people to understand completely what they're doing.
And also Prepster have pulled together a fantastic frequently asked question document that covers just about every question that you could possibly come up with, which doesn't replace the need for the face-to-face conversation, but it's a good place to go and just find out a little bit more about specific questions.
Yeah, which is actually, that's really helpful, because if you do want to check out the Prepster website, it's prepster.info/impact/5 things. That's prepster.info/impact/5 things. And it is, as Mitzi is saying, a very, very helpful website. You might see my face on there too, possibly, you know, hashtag just saying. I just wanted to ask as well, can we, like with the impact trial, can you just confirm for me that if people don't have recourse to public funds, that they can join the trial?
So the trial is, all the PrEP provided and all the monitoring provided in the impact trial is free. So it's on the NHS, you don't have to pay for it.
Okay.
And also I think there was great news that came out today, and correct me if I'm wrong in understanding this, but there were a lot of concerns around immigration status and data sharing with the NHS.
Yeah.
So from my understanding, as of today, the NHS is not allowed to share your immigration status with the Home Office. Unless it's a serious crime, you know, that kind of thing. But in terms of just immigration offences, they're not allowed to share your information. So if you're a migrant to this country, insecure immigration status, you can still access PrEP through the impact trial.
And we focus very much on England because PrEP is only available through the impact trial or privately in England, but it is available in Scotland through the NHS. And also
and Wales,
or just through the NHS completely. So it is available in those two areas as well.
Why is that?
To know about separate NHS. What have you got?
Okay.
Separate NHSs, separate NHS management, devolved responsibilities, and just different decision-making processes around how to deliver PrEP. But you know, I mean, all of us who are advocating for broader access for PrEP see this impact trial as the stepping stone to leading towards broader access of PrEP. And you know, I sort of feel like the more women who could benefit from PrEP and come forward now, the more we can flag that this is something that women will take advantage of once it's available more broadly on the NHS as well.
So what is the hook? That's my question. What is the hook to get women on board? Because, you know, we're talking about sex, we're talking about HIV, you know, and I think a lot of conversations that I have and a lot of my friends, you know, they feel that they're conditioned to believe that sex is a service, you know, rather than something which I really do enjoy, and I ain't gonna lie about that. If I ain't getting my pleasure on, you know. So what is the hook to encourage and empower women to say yes, PrEP is for me?
Well, I think there's lots. I mean, I think the HIV prevention option is going to be a big enough hook for many women. But as you say, you know, it's not all about the risk. It's also about the pleasure, the intimacy, the love within relationships. And what we know about PrEP is that it's got almost 2 levels of impact in terms of pleasure around sex. The first is it's a prevention option that doesn't reduce pleasure. Some people do experience reduced pleasure from condoms, so PrEP is an option for those people who don't want to use condoms and for whom condoms diminish their pleasure. But the flip side of that as well is that taking PrEP removes a lot of that anxiety that people experience before, during and after sex. So it sort of frees up that panic and gives people an opportunity, places something in the hands of women that they can use in their own time, in their own space, talking to their partners about it or not talking to their partners about it, and knowing that they're able to have sex as safely as they want to have it. And that's what I think is the most exciting bit about PrEP.
So it's liberating.
Yes, it is. It puts you in control. And there are pleasurable aspects to being in control. So the pleasure aspect is there as well, but it's just that fundamental thing. I am in control of this situation. I'm in control of my health, my situation right now. And that's an exciting innovation. I don't have to sit here and discuss condoms or broach this subject. If I don't feel comfortable necessarily doing that, I have another way of protecting myself.
I need to stop just for a second. We have a sound problem. We're just going to try and fix it. So Mark can just unplug it and plug it in again.
But it was the hook.
Sorry, ladies and
It
gentlemen.
was the hook.
Oh, apparently we're okay again.
Oh.
Mark can just...
Hope you didn't miss all of the pleasures.
Sorry, slight technical issue, but we are now back and literally coming back with the hook. Over to you.
Cool. Yes. PrEP. It puts us in control, and there is pleasure to be had with control. I don't know if that's what I have. Move on. What's the
I think it is about control. It is, I think condoms mean that the man is in control, and men don't always want to use them. And if a man doesn't want to use a condom and he is positive and not on treatment, then there is obviously the risk that he may transmit HIV to his female partner or to any partner. And a woman in that situation, has no control over that. And with PrEP, the control is totally hers. And actually, her partner doesn't need to know she's taking it. So if she's worried that he might know or might find out, she's taking a pill. She takes it the way she would take a contraceptive pill, for example, and he doesn't need to know. So it's completely in her control. And that, I think, is the best thing about PrEP.
So, I just think it's just so great that we're in a place. There's so many amazing movements happening now in relation to women, and to be sat on a couch with brilliant, powerful women talking about being able to take control of your bodies and your sexual, intimate life as well is really empowering. So I'm like, come on to the girl power. Come on.
It's the same feeling I had when the Me Too movement came out, because then it felt like, for me, there was this shared kind of experience of actually there's a lot of shit that happens to women and we can share that experience and this is something...
We might have to time out for a minute, we've got a kind of technical problem.
Technical
Again,
issue,
sorry.
ladies and gents.
We should be...
We've sort of forgotten that that's there though.
Which is perfect, this is absolutely perfect. We should be okay, I'm not sure.
Are we back on? Shall I do my little musical interlude again? What do you want now?
I'm trying to work out where that's even from.
You're from Ipanema. Nice.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Keep going.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we're back.
Apologies.
That's okay. I'll forgive the technical crew, but we're back. We've sorted it. So in relation to empowerment, taking control, obviously we've spoken a little bit about the cost of PrEP, and also about being able to buy it online. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about, say for instance, if there are people, if there are women out there that find it financially difficult, how do they access PrEP? Or can they access PrEP?
Well, at the moment, the only way they can access it for free is if they live in Scotland or Wales, or through the Impact Trial. And I think the first and best place to direct women to in England is to the Impact Trial.
Okay.
And as Becca said before, the numbers of women coming forward for PrEP have been so low that if women want it now, after this, today, there should be no reason
Yeah.
why they can't walk into these GUM clinics who are involved with the impact trial and be able to access it if they are assessed and seen to be at risk of HIV.
Wow.
And that is free with all of the, free testing, free STI testing, the whole thing.
And that's free.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And just for you out there who are watching, should you want to get more information about PrEP in Scotland and in Wales, the website for Scotland is prep.scot, and for Wales is friskywales.org. Hi. That's a great website. So I'll just repeat that for you. For Scotland, it's prep.scot, and for Wales, friskywales.org.
How do you spell?
That'll be coming up in the next Facebook Live event. And just a little bit, just for a point of clarity as well, you can buy PrEP online.
You can. You can buy PrEP online, and if you buy it through I Want PrEP Now, it is completely safe.
Wow.
And I'm hearing like £25-ish is what I'm
Yeah,
hearing at
yeah,
the moment for about a month's
okay.
time.
Yeah.
But it is really important to say within that that when people are buying it online, it's legal and it's good drugs and all the rest of it. But you have to remember that you need to go and get a HIV test before you start using it, and you have to find a clinic like Dean Street do this, and many other clinics are doing it, where they will continue to monitor your health, do the HIV tests, do the STI tests, do the annual kidney tests. Even though you're buying it privately. But it is important that you engage with the health services if you are accessing it privately.
Folks, we need to stop with something's
So seriously,
not showing.
we're not showing up.
Oh.
Women talking about sex, throw them off
I know.
Facebook.
Could well be, yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure.
We've frozen screen.
Frozen
Mark,
screen.
just reboot, just refresh it.
Refresh it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Lovely, ladies.
Quick briefing.
Right? Yeah. You were natural.
Show off. Doesn't mean I'm not nervous.
Let's do that.
I've done that bit. And we're back.
Yay! Even though it's a women's event, sometimes we do let a man in every now and again. You just saw him. Yes, so sorry, Mitzi, you were saying...
What was I saying? I was saying, oh yes, so any women who want to access PrEP in England should easily be able to go to the GUM clinics that are involved with the impact trial, and if they're considered eligible to get it, so assessed as being at risk of HIV, then they should be able to get it free, easily, okay? If women don't want to go that route and choose to go through I Want PrEP Now and buy the PrEP privately, it's really important that they remember to still engage with the sexual health services. They've got to check their HIV negative before they start. They've got to go and have the regular HIV and STI tests and the annual tests for kidneys, etc. So it's just really important to keep the services together with PrEP use if they're buying it privately.
And there is advice about how you can do that on the I Want PrEP Now website. So there's encouragement and advice to have regular STI tests. So STI means sexually transmitted infection tests. And the reason that this is important is because if you're taking PrEP because for some reason you can't use condoms, then you might be at risk of catching STIs. And so STI testing is really, really important. Particularly if you have concerns about your partner having other partners, or if you yourself have other partners. Just making sure that you don't catch things like chlamydia and gonorrhea, which you can get if you don't use condoms. So that kind of testing is really important.
And if you're truly inspired by what you've seen today, you could also come and join us and the work that we do. So there's huge community movement with PrEPster, with Positive East, with lots of other community organisations as well, who are really advocating for PrEP4Women. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. You can probably get in touch with the PrEPster website.
Yeah, I want to join. And you might get a really cool t-shirt.
I think that's right.
I want one. So just so you know, the website, I just want to reiterate, for buying PrEP online is iwantprepnow.co.uk. iwantprepnow.co.uk. And also I think it's really good to be able to really highlight the thing about community, you know, and actually all of the different community organisations that are out there, but also to really highlight the stigma that's within the communities as well. So, you know, I'm Nigerian, and as a black woman within my community, in terms of ages, even talking about sex is a big deal. You know, so in terms of the BAME community, you know, like how do you infiltrate that and raise awareness within those communities to be able to reach out to all of these brilliant organisations that are here?
And I think that's where community organisations come in. And like we were saying before, with having a peer-led approach, so recruiting champions. I'm being told to speak up. I'm being signed at. Recruiting champions from communities as well. So we work with an amazing team of over 50 volunteers who come from all different walks of life, all different communities, and I think they are the best advocates realistically to bring change, because it's like you said before, it's about being culturally sensitive, it's about having the awareness and how to bring that knowledge into communities where it may be needed.
Yeah, which is really helpful. You know what as well, it's funny because a friend of mine that was talking to me about PrEP, and she was saying, it's great, Akia, because in terms of my sexual health, I get every 3 months, I get a checkup, and I get to know what's going on with my body. And she went, even that alone is really liberating. Because I feel on top of myself. Whereas, you know, she's like, I talk to some of my other friends who are not on PrEP, and some of them haven't had a sexual health check in years. So actually, even just the benefit of every 3 months having that health check is really beneficial.
And being able to have a chat about things that you're concerned about. Is this something that's normal? Being able to have a safe space, like you were saying, to actually discuss that with someone, which is a free service, which is, is open access. It is open access. Despite all the difficulties, sex health is open access. But being able to go in and actually access that service, I think that's so important.
And I just want to go back to the point about, community organisations and how you engage with Black, African and other ethnic minority groups in terms of some of these conversations. I mean, something again that has been fantastic in the UK is the community response to HIV, sorry to talk up, community response to HIV and raising awareness among BAME populations for increased HIV testing, increased coming forward for treatment. And the community network is there to start raising these same conversations and learning from those many years' experience to open up the new dialogue around the benefits of PrEP as well. So you know the infrastructure's there and there is great work going on.
I've got my third shameless plug.
Do it.
But
You are the shameless plugger. It's official.
It's okay because I preface it, so it's acceptable. But on Saturday we've got this amazing conference. So it's a faith symposium. We've got 7 African pastors coming together to talk about HIV and the different Christian themes.
Incredible.
So we'll be talking about PrEP there. And I think it just shows about what you're saying, that there is community work, not just Positive East, GMI Partnership, loads of other community organisations, our friends Heart Sage as well. I'm just plugging that.
It's great, but
So there is a lot going on.
How do people access the information to that event?
It's a good question. I'm hoping that PrEPster will share it. But it's on the Positive East website, so you can always see it's positiveeast.org.uk and it'll be there.
Just say it one more time.
positiveeast.org.uk.
Amazing.
Thank you.
There's one thing that I feel like, in terms of vulnerability, you talked a lot about vulnerability and about, one of the things that I'm really aware of is obviously women who are being exposed to domestic violence, also women within very kind of religious communities. So in terms of them having the strength and the bravery to come and say I need help. Like what is the hook for those women, you know? How do we do that?
I think that's a very difficult question to answer, and I think, again, we have services that do amazing work with these women, and actually we have to recognise that HIV is not always going to be their priority, and actually there's a lot of wider work that needs to be done before a woman is in a space where she may be able to access PrEP.
Okay.
I mean, PrEP is fantastic. It's not going to answer all women's problems. But it is part of, I think, the solution.
Right. Okay.
And I also think, you know, it has to be that multi-level, multi-sexual response where everybody is in a position to mention PrEP for women. But more than anything else, so, you know, it wasn't that long ago where nobody knew about PrEP in this country. And the big difference that happened for gay men was champions starting to come forward and saying, I'm on PrEP and this is what it means to me. And that's what we need to try to support women to come forward and take those roles of talking about their own experiences of PrEP and being champions in their own communities.
Okay, so for someone like me, what's the tangible thing that I can do, and for people that are watching, to be able to empower women to say, come on, PrEP is on. It's on.
Well, I mean, I think people should start to see PrEP in the same way, women should start to see PrEP in the same way that they see taking contraception. It's not a big issue to talk about contraception. And what we want is for it not to be a big issue to talk about PrEP. So in the same way that women talk openly about trying to prevent pregnancy, I think we want the end result to be that women talk about preventing HIV in exactly the same. So I think just using every opportunity you can. I mean, you know, so people in the HIV space use every opportunity to talk about U equals U, undetectable equals untransmissible, because we want everyone in the general public to know that a person who's HIV positive on treatment is incapable of transmitting their HIV. And you also want people to know that if you're taking PrEP, you won't catch HIV. And I think that these should just be normal mainstream conversations.
So it's about normalising it.
We need to talk about sex and we need to talk about PrEP.
And we need to continue to empower.
Yes.
Bring it on. Ladies, I just think this has been an amazing kind of hour with you, and it's been really informative for me, and I'm hoping that it's been really informative for you watching. So I'd just like to say thank you to Mitzi, to Yasmin and to Nika for being such a bowl of information and education, because I'm going to move forward now. I might even start using PrEP. In fact, I think I will. But yeah, so I just want to say thank you to our panel. I want to say thank you to you for tuning in. I also just want to say thank you to Still Point Spaces for allowing us to be in their great space and sat on their beautiful couch. It's really comfortable, you need to check it out. And also to the Elton John AIDS Foundation as well. And to Hakeem, who is on the camera, smiling as we speak. He's giving us a little cheeky wave. And he's been very quiet and very patient with all of us. And also I just want to say thank you to Will and Mark, who are Prepster. And should you need any more information, please go to prepster.info. Please go to prepster.info/impact/5 things. iwantprepnow.co.uk, womenandprep.org.uk, prepster.info/buying-prep-online. I mean, the list is endless. Prep.scot, friskywales.org, and prepimpacttrial.org.uk. Please, the information is out there. Please, women, come join us on the Prepster live event. We're moving PrEP forward and we're going to empower each other. It's the only way for us to go. So thank you once again for watching. I hope to see you again sometime soon. I'll give you a little when you come back. And yes, have a lovely evening and a great week. Lots of love. Bye! Bye.